Hello, my centers. Welcome back. This will be the one shot entitled Santa's Coming to Town and He Comes with Quirks by Crandorn. This will be our 2024 Christmas special. I hope you enjoy. The link is always down in the description, and if you enjoy, give the author some comments and a kudos. Summary. Alphonse steals a quirk that imbues him with the Christmas spirit, ultimately driving him to travel around the world, handing out quirks to quirkless kids. He stole them rightfully, and now they're his to do what he wants with. And he wants to give them to quirkless kids, All Might. So lay off. Lay off about breaking and entering. He's doing the good thing for once. Alphonse set a piece of paper he'd been holding gently onto the coffee table next to the tree. It was smaller, tucked into a corner of the apartment. It made of plastic pine needles and flax wood base that saved his family's handed parents from handling the messy cleanup of a real tree. A thin plug ran from under a blanket into a wall socket, powering the lights woven into the tree and casting the warm in an artificial yellow glow. Small wired speakers crackled on the mantel beneath the wall-mounted television that looped a recording of a crackling fire. And an Alexa in the other room shuffled a playlist of the same Christmas songs that had been played every year like clockwork for the past 2 centuries. A day ago, that might have annoyed everyone, perhaps even driving him to violence. He certainly would have destroyed the offending music player. Instead, he sighed, curling his lips up onto a faint smile as he transformed his fingers into a pencil and doodled a little devil onto where a child had written Dear Satan instead of Dear Santa on the top of the page. Adorable and sweet. Alphonse felt his heart swell a little more of warmth and concern he'd rapidly been growing used to ever since he'd picked up this mutation quirk from an old man in the end of life earlier today. The quirk had a simple effect. It made the user's heart 3 times larger, guaranteeing them minor improvements in strength and stamina, and even got a little stronger around the holiday season. A simple quirk that helped the elderly man here and there throughout their life. Stephen Nicholas was the old man's name, and how strange it felt for Alphonse to remember a random person's name. He lived to the ripe old age of 110 as a pillar of their community. They died surrounded by happy, caring family and friends, and a perfect end to the lifespan spent giving gifts and helping others. He found Stephen's quirk on his routine pass through the hospital of patients in the end-of-life care and immediately knew he needed to have it. Shigaraki had been born with a heart that was 2 sizes too small, and desperately had pledged himself for much of his early life before he stole a set of quirks that made him up for inability to oxygenate his blood effectively. Many things changed once he activated the quirk. Amazingly, he found his power grew into a strength of 10 over-ones, plus 2. That wasn't the only thing, though. After a lifetime spent with a small heart, he started to feel things in a way that were completely unfamiliar, and was somewhat unsure, and was sure this expression was called empathy. It had been gross at first. When the tremors of emotion warmed their way into his heart, up his throat, and to prolific his brain with the desire to help others, but he'd grown comfortable with it rather quickly. It was an awful feeling. He could almost understand why heroes did what they did. He shivered, almost. He didn't let himself linger on it long. He lay madness or worse, heroism. He walked down the hall and towards the child's room where he knew they were. Their room was well decorated, clearly created to fill by loving hands of a devoted parent. Everything with shades of blue and deep navy curtains, an ocean bed cover shade that swayed the 6-year-old boy sleeping beneath him. Sugar lowered his hand on the child's forehead with an utmost care. Search, a quirk he'd torn from some mild hero, told him the boy was quirkless. The word that had resonated in the child's note to Satan reminded him. Dear Satan, I've been a very good boy, and Mommy and Dad said I should ask for something if I was very good, and I wanted to say to you that I want a quirk more than anything else in the whole wide world. It doesn't have to be super duper cool one like my friend's quirks. I'd be okay with anything, but if you give me something related to dragons, that would be awesome because dragons are my favorite. Pretty please? From Billy. Everyone smiled as his hand came to rest on Billy's forehead, brushing a thin strand of gray-blue hair away from his peacefully sleeping face. Shigaraki prodded, flickering through the endless catalog of quirks he'd stolen over the years. Dragons, 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 dragons. What dragon-related quirks do I have? I normally give those up because they tend to be strong. Shigaraki forced himself to keep his humming quiet as he worked while humming along to the faint noise of Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You. He had no idea how it had progressed across the literal centuries, but he made the best of it. Finally, making a choice, he pushed the selected power out through his arm, down his wrist, and into the boy. Thin, grimmal blue scales rippled across him, pushing their way out of his skin and slotting themselves into the mesh of thin, dragon-like armor before slinking away again. It wasn't particularly powerful, and the original owner hadn't been able to push it beyond a cosmetic quirk, but it was fundable, and who knows, maybe the kid would accomplish something great with it someday. The kids shifted in their sleep, and all for one placed a soothing hand on their head to lull them back into slumber before stepping back out into the hallway and easing the door shut behind them. Search locked onto another quirkless kid several miles away, and a teleportation quirk he saw him there instantly. Neither quirk would normally be even remotely capable of operating on this level, but All for One wasn't the same person he'd been a few days ago. His heart was 3 times larger, and on tonight of all nights, with Christmas spirit following him, there was nothing he couldn't do. All for One teleported himself into the apartment in Mustafa, Japan, with a faint pop of displaced air. It was another among hundreds he had to visit so far, and was getting rather good at the whole Santa business, if he said so himself. He glanced around the room, revealing a letter written to Santa-san, a neat crown sitting in the living room. Shigaraki wiggled his wrinkled his nose at the cartoon drawing of All Might in various poses on the side of the paper, but he couldn't hold the child's preferences against him. He'd grow out of it. Or maybe not, Shigaraki corrected himself. The room had exactly 2 things in it, no more, no less. A green fluffy child tucked into his bed curled around their pillow, and as much hero merch as their baby hands could gather. The bed frame was All Might themed. The walls were hero poster strewn. The toys were bright yellow hero figures that burned All for One's eyes. But he pushed through. He would spread the Christmas spirit today, even if he found this child obvious hero worship exuberance. Dear Santa-san, hi, I'm Midoriya Zuko. You're Santa, right? Mom told me about you. She said you could give gifts to really good kids, but if that's right, you would have to go to so many people's houses. You'd have to have an amazing quirk to visit so many people's houses in one night. I don't have a quirk. My friends are mean to me at school about it and make fun of me. They're super big meanies because I can't do the things like my friend Kachan can. He has an awesome explosion quirk that is great for being a hero, and I try not to be jealous because I want to be a hero one day, and heroes aren't jealous, but everyone says I can't be a hero because I don't have a quirk, and I want more than anything because I want to be a hero just like All Might and make sure everyone has a smile and know they're safe. So I guess what I want for Christmas, Santa, I know it's a lot, but I did my best to be very good this year. So would you please give me a quirk so I can help people? From Midori Izuku. P.S. I hope you have a great Christmas too, Santa. Trigger dropped a paper on the floor, placing a hand on the boy's head. As he wolfed over which quirks to give him, he said he wanted to be like All Might, perhaps a strength quirk, or maybe some form of telekinesis, like the boy's mother sleeping in the other room. It was a tough decision, and he played with both of the quirk factors and tried to sense of which would suit the boy better. There was a heavy there were kind of scrangly, but maybe that would make the strength quirk more valuable to him, or unhand that boy All for One, growled a voice from behind him. All Might, Shigaraki greeted casually, unaltered confidence in his current position. All Might wouldn't try to push him down when he was this close to a civilian, and if he did, he was stronger than before. Taking hostages All for One. Far from it, Shigaraki said, smiling broadly and turning to All Might. I'm just here to give them a little Christmas gift. All Might struck with a punch that had his cervix covered arm flexing and bulging in an attempt to knock his head off. All for One was caught off guard by the attack, not expecting a strike at all, but his Christmas spirit protected his body from the consequences he may have experienced. In the end, all the blow accomplished was startling him into accidentally releasing both quirks he was holding into the boy, who shot up out of his bed with a scream. He looked wildly around him, taking in All Might with his heroic glory, and All for One in a bright red suit with a fake white beard. All Might, Santa? What's going on? Not to fear, young man. I will protect you from this villain. The green-haired boy frowned, furrowed his brow in confusion. Santa's a villain? Then he gasped with eyes sparkling. Wait, do I have a quirk now? That's why Santa's here? Right? Did you give me a quirk like I asked for, Santa? Sherry nodded. That I did, Midoriya. You what? All Might stuttered his way through the question, utterly confused by what he stumbled into. Midoriya screwed his eyes shut, focusing on the bed beneath him, and began to float. Whoa, he giggled. Thank you so much, Santa. This is awesome. That was decidedly not an expression of the quirk he had given the boy. The minor telekinesis had given him able to do much more than lift a television remote or press a button in the distance. And the strength quirk certainly didn't allow him to fly. Perhaps the strength quirk had a combination of it somehow into a new quirk, something like telekinesis. It didn't matter. He had more houses to visit tonight, and more quirks to give to good children around the world. All Might finally recovered his wits and recalled the original task. Awful One, you are under arrest as a suspect for hundreds of criminal charges, including several dozen accounts of breaking, entering, and trespassing tonight. Do not resist. Wait, All Might, you can't arrest Santa, shouted Midoriya. What about Christmas? He can't give out gifts if he's in jail. Shigari patted the boy's head. Thank you for your concern, Midoriya, but I'm in no danger. He smirked. Not while I'm fueled with the Christmas spirit. I'll find a way to stop you all for one. All Might growled. His signature smile curved into something ferocious and dangerous. Shiny white teeth bristling with lethal intent as he scattered almost inhumanly wide. Shigaraki smiled in return, raising his arms to hold them out, and he said openly, You'll have to catch me first, All Might, he said as he vanished in a puff. All Might cursed, shifting in the runner's stance and launching himself in pursuit, sending all the posters and loose figures around the room faltering on the floor. Izuku's mother ran into the room a moment later, drawn by the sounds of the confrontation, gasping at her giggling son floating on the bed with his arms waving in the air, almost collapsed when she saw All Might-sized hole in the wall. What the fuck? She whirled when she felt a gentle bonk on the back of her head. One of the displaced figures bonked into the back of her head as her son floated her to her bed. No bad words, Mama. And that was the end of Santa's Coming to Town and He Comes with Quirks by Crandorn. I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. Remember the link is down in the description, as always, and sorry if my voice is, like, stuffy. I am currently kind of, like, half sick right now while doing this. Same goes, yeah. So, that's why it sounds a little congested, if I sound like that, or, like, yeah, you know what I mean. But, yeah, I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you next time.